Hey everybody, this is Marcos. I'm here with famous ring announcer Jimmy Lennon Jr. Jimmy, thanks for joining us today. We're at the College Cage Series in Irvine, California. Now, a lot of people have seen you announcing recently for Strikeforce, doing the ring introductions and everything like that. We've also seen you for many, many years in the boxing ring as well. Jimmy, are you a fan of MMA?
Yeah, really I am. My background is in boxing, and I've been in boxing for 28, 29 years now. But I've been doing MMA fights for about 6 or 7 years, so I consider myself still a newcomer, learning a lot about the sport. But yeah, I really do like it. I'm a fan. And I think the things that made me a fan were several. One, the fighters. I like the fighters. I'm drawn to them. They seem to be really low-key, nice guys in general, just hard-working. They love to fight, but there's something different about them. I like the sport that, a lot of it is like watching a Mike Tyson fight. You don't turn away for a second because anything could happen. And the action goes really quick and fast. And I like that about fight sport. And I like that in a good boxing match. And you see a lot of that in MMA also. I think it's also a safe fight, a safe sport, because, in boxing, you take so many blows to the head in your career. And in MMA, a handful of blows and the fight's over. And so in a career of an MMA fighter, you don't find them taking as much brain damage. So I think it's kind of safe. I think there's also something about the sport where you can be a hardcore fan and know a lot and enjoy a fight. And then you can be a novice or a beginner seeing the fight for the first time, and you can also appreciate that fight. Maybe on a different level, but it's addictive watching these fights. And, I just love it. I'm enjoying the big fights, and I'm enjoying, smaller, more local fights like this card that we're going to do here tonight.
We saw you at the Strikeforce presser on Wednesday in Los Angeles at Legends Gym. Who are some of your favorite Strikeforce fighters?
Yeah, I'm a fan of Strikeforce because, I know they have great fighters. I know them better because I get to know them personally. And so certainly I'll follow a lot of MMA fighters, but the Strikeforce ones I'm a little closer to. Gilbert Melendez is a great fighter. I enjoy watching him fight. He's a great guy as well. I love watching the women fight. Chris Cyborg and Gina Carano, were great fights. Dan Henderson, I'm looking forward to being part of his debut with Strikeforce and on CBS. And I've never seen him fight in person. I've seen him fight on TV, so I'm really looking forward to that. And I've gotten to know him a little bit. Man, I just love seeing Fedor. I mean, that was a treat to see him in person. And, I'm looking forward to more fights with him, too.
Now, I know you've had a long career that spanned many, many decades. And, you've had a ton of ring and cage moments. But which are some of the ones that have topped it off that have stood out the most in your mind? In
the cage or in boxing?
Both.
Well, in boxing, I get this question a lot, and it's hard to narrow it down because sometimes you see a couple of guys in a 4-round fight, and they're fighting their heart out for their paycheck, and they're doing an unbelievable war. That can be great. But you know what? And I did a lot of Mike Tyson fights, and the ear bite with the Holyfield was one that I really remembered for a bad reason. I don't want to remember that because we kind of worked hard to make that a really big, nice event, and it turned out somewhat disastrous. When Julio Cesar Chavez fought Greg Haugen in Mexico City, though, there were 135,000 people in attendance, the largest crowd ever to see a fight. And it was just unbelievable. It wasn't just a sporting event. It was a celebration. It was, families came early, like a parade, like a carnival, brought their food. You could see fires throughout the stadium as they're cooking their food beforehand. And of course, you see the police with the machine guns and the German Shepherds in the moat separating the field on the soccer stadium versus the stands. Unbelievable crowd control, unbelievable scene. It was really very special. With MMA, like I said, I'm more new to it, but I really enjoyed the Kimbo Slice events. He was a young fighter at the time, but there was something about it. If you were ever there, people got on their feet to watch that fight, and as soon as they started it off, they didn't sit down the whole fight. And there's something very special about, obviously, an internet sensation that everyone had seen on the internet. Here he is live, and what's he going to look like? So there's a big curiosity factor. I love seeing Fedor, as I mentioned. I thought that was a real treat. There was an epic battle with Frank Shamrock and Kung Lee that I really appreciated, too. That whole drama of, could Frank take him to the ground? And I think that was a tremendous battle. Those are some of my fond memories of MMA.
Now we're seeing some boxers moving into MMA. One that immediately comes to mind is James Toney. You know, you've seen James Toney fight because you know your association with boxing. How do you comment in a situation like that?
Ooh, you know, I'm the last person who wants to insult James Toney. First of all, you know, I hate to admit it, but when he fought Holyfield, and Holyfield was doing quite well then, and he just destroyed Holyfield. You know, I was embarrassed that I thought, you know, I joined a lot of other people, so I tend to not bet against James Toney. Also, he's a friend of mine, and he gives me a hard time if I ever say anything negative about him. But you know, any boxer who goes into MMA has an obvious huge disadvantage. I mean, let's not fool ourselves at all, because we know a good grappler is just going to take him down, a submission artist. So it all has to do with the takedown defense. Can you learn that in a short amount of time? No. I mean, I just don't see how any boxer can do that. If they've had a great background in wrestling as a youngster, you know, or Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu somehow, perhaps. But it's you know, I think we all know that's an uphill battle.
Now that you've been exposed to MMA, have you been training at all in MMA, taking in jiu-jitsu classes, any Muay Thai classes, anything like that?
No, I haven't. But you know, I just talked to John McCarthy this evening, and he invited me to his gym to go watch. You know, I'm not sure if I'm one for training to getting in there. You know, that's a different animal who gets into that cage and does that. You know, I really admire those athletes who do. Anyone who does that, I admire them so much. I'm not sure I have it in me. You know, my job is to make them look good and step out of the cage and let them get at it. And the more I see it, the more, you know, I appreciate it. But the more I also see it's a tough sport. It's a tough sport, and so, you know, we'll see what happens when I visit John's gym.
Now, a quick little piece, a humorous little question that I got to answer: who takes it in a fight, you or Bruce Buffer?
Oh man, it's a good thing I'm not a fighter. Bruce is a big guy. I mean, yeah. he's a big guy. I would never fight with him, and nor would he with me. But he's a good guy.
Well, there you've heard it, Jimmy Lennon Jr. Thank you very much.
My pleasure. Thank you.